What's up? I'm Amanda Costco, and you're listening to the Electric Runway podcast, a podcast exploring the intersection of fashion and technology. Lately, we've been hearing a lot about digital fashion. Whether we're talking about augmented reality try-on in Snapchat or digital clothing that's created and sold as art objects and minted as NFTs, that's non-fungible tokens, the fashion industry is looking more pixelated than ever before. While the pandemic has caused us to find new use cases for digital fashion, the truth is that the design process has been digitizing for years. Today, my guests are from Browseware, the leading provider of 3D fashion software that offers solutions for design, development, and merchandising. Since 1999, Browseware has been driving digital transformation in the apparel industry through the power of true-to-life 3D prototypes that make it easy for everyone involved in the creation and production of garments to collaborate, iterate, and get items to market faster than ever before. Joining me today is Browseware's CEO, Avi Feld, as well as the company's VP of Marketing, Osnat Lidor. So, Avi and Osnat, welcome to the show. For those who don't know, tell us about Browseware.
Browseware is dealing with 3D virtual garments. We're actually leading the entire apparel industry into a 3D digital transformation from what it is today, which is a very traditional way of creating garments and doing the pre-production of any collection, towards where we believe this is the way of the present and the future, which is completely digital 3D workflow. This is what Browser is doing. A bit of a word about what we used to do. We founded this company 20 years ago, over 20 years ago, with the idea of the need for a good digital shopping experience, which will accommodate the emerging e-commerce that started back then. And we thought about 3D virtual dressing room, which would be the perfect use for 3D, being able to see yourself in 3D wearing a garment when you are shopping for garments online. That's how we started Browseware. It was very naive many years back, but we never left this idea, except we kind of pivoted the company after the first bubble exploded, the internet bubble, and we found ourselves where we are today, which is having this foundation and solution, which is helping the entire industry transform towards a complete 3D digital workflow.
Osnat, tell me about some of the features that make Browseware unique compared to other 3D design software.
When we look at the industry and digital, there's a lot of solutions out there. But I think what makes Browseware unique is the fact that we enable companies to have trust in the digital sample, in the digital twin. So when you want to make decision, when you want to make this digital samples end-to-end prototypes from ideation to production to selling to manufacturing, you need a sample that is really true to life, that you can trust and make business decisions on that throughout the supply chain. So our uniqueness is the fact that what you see in digital, what you see on the computer is exactly the same to what is going to be produced. So you can make all the decisions on that in terms of costing, in terms of fabrics, in terms of production and waste. So this is for us what is unique, and what our customers to date have found us better than other solutions out there. Another thing that is unique for us is the fact that we have the open platform and we enable the integration of other services with Browseware. So we connect to other solutions. We understand that you can't be siloed in this process. You need to have other solutions in this process. Digital transformation is never something that happens, by one company. You need to have multiple companies in this process, and we connect to any company that wants this connection, that can enable a digital transformation process in companies, in other apparel companies. So this is something that is definitely unique to us that we found, and this has built kind of an ecosystem around digital solutions for apparel companies.
Just to add to this, I think that I'm with Asnat on everything she said. The trusted solution that allows you to go from ideation to manufacturing and selling. This is where Browser has its uniqueness. But to add to that is that target audience that we are aiming towards, the users of that solution, is the same people in this industry who in the past never had any kind of 3D education or know-how. In other words, we needed to build a solution which can be operated and used by just about everyone that is within this industry. So combining creativity with trustworthy solution and make it feasible for people who are in this industry for years and years, that was a challenge. But this is actually becoming the story of our life, being able to transform the entire sets of people in this industry, those who were there for the last 30 years and those who are coming new, towards a whole new digital workflow. That's where we're good at.
Absolutely. And it seems the accessibility of softwares like Browseware have led to this boom that we're seeing in both 3D and digital design right now. So I'd love to get your opinion on why we think that we're experiencing this now, not only from the designer perspective, but also we're seeing this 3D design make its way into marketing materials. We've seen virtual runway shows created in Browseware. So why do you think this boom is happening right now with 3D? Is it just the moment for it?
Well, yes, the short answer. But I think the longer answer is it's a combination of things. First of all, the technology had evolved and it became, as you said, far more available for just about everyone. Whereas in the past, it was more about enterprises that could afford, such a solution. And we see it in other industries as well. Historically, that would be the starting point. Nevertheless, there are other factors that made this transition far more, going much faster these days than earlier on. And I think that we can lay very strict line somewhere around 2016 towards coming towards 2017, where big players, more tech companies went into the business. You have your Amazons, your Zalando, your pure play internet guys who are coming from the tech world, coming from data-driven design, data-driven everything, to a space of a very traditional business being ran for dozens and dozens of years in the same manner. And suddenly the more technical companies came in and offered a new way or new angle to look at things, which is more digital, which is more, as I said, data-driven. And that immediately turned the traditional businesses into understanding that they need to have something. They need to have something that will keep them above the water, being able to continue to do what they're good at, but still be relevant in a world which is completely digital. And this is the first element that made the industry far more ready to hear about 3D, to understand that this is a good way for them to maintain what they know already, and yet penetrate the new type of world, which is completely digital. The second thing I think, which was very substantial in what's happening today, was COVID. COVID actually brought in a challenge that nobody had foreseen, is the moment factories were closed in China, somewhere in April 2020, there was a sudden stop in flow of samples, physical samples. And physical samples are still the one necessary evil that is being required for many of the traditional businesses in order to make their decision of the collection and the collection elements and what would go into manufacturing and how many pieces of each. It all relies at the end of the day on the proven physical samples. And when those didn't come in from China, there wasn't a good way to make any type of a decision. And then they realized that 3D, especially browser 3D, which is true to life, is a good alternative to the physical samples. And then we got the second boost of people understanding that not only this is a valid alternative, it's actually a very good one, a faster one that poses so many more advantages than, this became a reason for them to look further into how to utilize 3D. And that was the second boom. So it's a combination of all of those. And I would add to that also that the availability of the software then to the more independent independent people out there, the small businesses, that made it even further help the enterprise to boost, because now when they understand they want to enter 3D, they want to change their workflows from physical to digital and 3D in it, they need to have skilled people. So either they skill up their own team, or they skill up their own team plus getting reinforcement from outside. The fact that you have indies out there and small businesses and people working with softwares like Browseware makes it easier for the enterprise to go deeper and faster into utilizing 3D across the board.
I have to say also, the COVID, it was a situation that kind of boosted everything. It was people that were at home. It's not just the samples, right, which was a huge part of it, but people were spread. Suddenly employees were sent home, right? And they had to approve a collection when nobody's in the office, right? They can't look at a board, they can't see the samples. So they have to do everything with a tool that would enable them to work on one piece that is kind of one source of truth that they all look at. And the digital became that tool for them. So it's actually became like a working tool, an actual working tool. And, I think it's also the combination of the technology in that time advanced so much, like in recent, 2-3 years, that we got to a situation that it's actually very easy for them to access. Also, we have the cloud license. It's much easier to install. There's a lot of the simulation is faster. Like things came together that made it, they say, okay, this is not just a solution for the COVID situation. This kind of got me into that, but it's actually a solution that I need to use from now on. Like, why not use it? So it kind of boosted and accelerated the whole transformation that maybe would have taken a few years, but it's now not about, should I do this? Should I go digital samples? It's I have to go digital samples. There's no reason why not to go to that.
From a nice to have, it's become a must have, which is really important. And I always say it's interesting that it took a pandemic to get the fashion industry to change, but here we are.
Yeah.
So we know that the conversation around sustainability is super important right now in the fashion industry. How does Browseware empower organizations to be more sustainable? And maybe talk about it from the perspective of someone who doesn't really understand traditional manufacturing.
Right.
How does Browseware compare?
Right. So in that sense, there are two angles we need to look at. Angle number one is what we're doing today already. And number two is what are the opportunities and things that we are planning to have in the near mid future, if you want. So first, what we do today, just the ability to narrow down a workflow, which is usually about 50 weeks on average. 50 weeks could be, a bit less for t-shirts creation and more if you're looking into down jackets. But somewhere the average is in the middle, 50 weeks. During those 50 weeks, what happens in the traditional workflow is that after a request for a design was sent from enterprise to the factory, usually, then the factory would do something. And do something, I mean, they will create a physical samples that then needs to travel from wherever the factory is, let's say China, to where the brand is, let's say the US. And when it arrives to the US a few weeks later, then it goes into review. Usually that review will never work in first time. There will be comments, and the comments will be sent with the garment back to China, another traveling to the other side of the world. And that can go several times. And that is when people are looking at it from the outside of the apparel industry, it looks almost crazy that this type of a workflow still exists. But that it is what it is. And when Browseware is coming into the picture and offers a trustworthy alternative to such a process, what you're saying is actually, instead of all these back and forth traveling of a garment from one side to the other, the creation of the prototypes, the dyeing of the materials for doing the samples, all of this is completely saved when you're going digital. None of that exists. Everything is being done on the computer, and your iterations of creating the garment at the end of the day are all done back and forth on the computer. There will be one big thing that is already being achieved using the software. But then you come to think of it, narrowing down a workflow 50 weeks to something, it can go to sometimes in 80% less. In other words, in a matter of weeks, you can complete an entire collection. What that does from sustainability perspective is actually being able to manufacture less quantity of garments and being able to reach with a very, very short cycle time to the market, to the shelves with garments that are most likely are still within the trend and therefore they will be bought. Whereas in the current situation where you have 50 weeks of average cycle time, this means that once you get to the shelves, once you get to meet the consumer and offer them those designs that started 50 and usually 70 weeks before, your chances to hit the trend is way lower in the traditional workflow, which means that in the traditional workflow, many of the items will just end up not sold. And we are talking about 50% of the styles that may be thrown away, burned, or what have you. And so when browser is being introduced as a completely new alternative workflow, the idea is that not only that it sells better, it's again, we are now polluting less because the quantities are smaller and yet they are being sold and the hit ratio is much bigger and less waste, of course. So this is already happening today. Looking forward at what can happen, so there are several things that we are already looking into, which are kind of interesting to whoever is dealing with sustainability. So number one, that is, I think, on the nearer horizon, is being able to offer anyone who is within the workflow, within the pre-production of the garments, be it the engineers of the garment, being the designers, being able to offer them an alternative to the materials, for instance, that they're using. Alternative, which is more sustainable type of fabric, sustainable type of trims created in a more sustainable process. These things are completely doable today. What we're looking for is the partner from the other end to offer those materials, to offer those trims, and the way to then inject them directly into the design process already exists. So when a designer is actually now designing with a material, being able to offer them a fabric with much better, say, ratio or rank of sustainability and in reasonable price range could be a huge difference, because then if you are a designer and you can choose a fabric which is more sustainable, why wouldn't you do that as long as it's reasonable price? That will be one way of looking at sustainability. And then, of course, there are other factors that can be on the same idea, other factors that can be completely be within the hands of the engineers and the designers who are then having a control on the garment that they design and thus on the manufacturing process. And if they would know at any given point what would be that thing that they can change in their design or in their engineering, which will have an effect on having a more sustainable manufacturing process, and they can choose within a click of a button to go to the alternative way, which is more sustainable, we believe that they would choose that. And this is something that, again, we're looking for a partner that will be able to narrow down the manufacturing processes into tangible elements that the designer engineer can choose from while they're designing the garment. Again, based on our platform and our open platform, these are things that can be injected right to where the designer is working on the garment.
So we're making it easier for brands to make more sustainable decisions within the workflow.
I agree with what Avichai said, and less cycles of prototypes means less fabrics, means less trims, less carbon emission, less waste eventually in landfills, right? It's kind of a whole process that is being saved. Companies are now trying to figure out, how do we exactly quantify the save? How do we exactly quantify the sustainability? It's not that straightforward. But they are starting to figure out this situation. But sustainability is not only on the fabric and the waste; it's also on the social aspect of it. Brands work with manufacturers. Manufacturers are doing a lot of samples. They usually pay for the fabrics of the samples. They pay for the resources to create these samples. And all that, once they work with digital sample, it's being saved for them. And they work on a very low margin, right? So this is something that socially manufacturers that are working in countries that are very far away, the salaries are very low. So this is something that is socially conscious. And the fact that you can do that very quickly and spend less is something that we see as a big factor of sustainability. Add that together with the less waste. You save on sustainability not only in the beginning and not only in the end. It's kind of a lot of aspect to it throughout.
I love that. And it's interesting because it really matches the trend that we're seeing in the industry. You know, we used to see clothing being shown 6 months ahead. Now we're moving more towards see now, buy now, because it doesn't make sense for consumers to see something on the runway that they can't wear for 6 months. And now we're even seeing faster speed to market where we're seeing manufacturing on demand. So I'm wondering how Browseware is contributing to a future where clothing is only manufactured once it's ordered and perhaps the consumer, waits a week or two. I was wondering, does anyone use Browseware like that right now? Is that in the roadmap at all?
I'll say just in general, the concept of being able to sell, then produce is something that we believe in very much. Not only from, I think, commercial perspective for the brands that are actually our clients, but also from sustainability. If we get to, ideally, a world that manufactures only per demand, obviously it will be less waste, less pollution. That being said, there is a very good question, more academic one behind. These people really want to be dependent only on what they want, only on what they think is nice. I'm not so sure. It's a question to be tested. People do tend to buy things that they want something of their own, but still they want the brand that everybody wants as well. So where the truth really lies, I don't know that I can say, but definitely Browseware tools and like our tool, mostly ours, I will speak to ours, enables the brands to test that direction. Being able to then show today a digital garment that looks completely like the real thing, not needing to manufacture the physical garment for that, it is that element that allows the brands to test the market. And there are many different ways of testing it. We leave that to the brands, how to offer that digital garment to their buyers, to their shoppers, to their consumers. But at the end of the day, technically speaking, that's already doable. And we do have some of our clients, I'm not sure that they're using that capability to test the market, but they're definitely using that capability of showing digital garment for selling purposes. They're already doing that, and they started again in COVID when they didn't even have physical samples to go ahead and have the photo shoots. So some of them, be it Odlo, using digital imaging on Odlo. You can look for 3D on Tommy Hilfiger website, and you will see outcome of the software. These are already tests that are being done by our clients to try and sell directly from digital. Can it be used to then go deeper into on-demand styles? I'm sure it is. It's a lot of it is also dependent on how do you do it when you're facing the consumer. What is the story that you tell your consumer? And there is another element there that if you're going on demand, consumers they used to be able to click the buy button and expect the garment to be delivered to their home in the next 2-3 days, depending on where you are on this globe. But let's assume that it's anywhere between 2 to 4 days in getting the delivery back to your home. If it's a garment that was not physically made, we should be looking at more time. And that more time is a very big question mark. We know that fast forwarding to the future, not very far future, 2-3 years down the line, being able to have more and more of those smart factories, automated factories, robots that can sew and so on and so forth, that will make it much easier to have a on-demand, fast production of garments. Until then, it's a testing field. Well, let's see how that works.
We have one of our customers, a great team of Unspun. They're located in Hong Kong and in the US. So they produce denim that is customized to the user. So you scan, they have scanning station, or they have this application that you scan at home, and then you pick a type of denim and it fits. They work with Browswear to fit it accurately and sculpt it around the avatar that is made according to the user that was scanned. And it's customized to be so accurate to the way that your body is shaped that users find it, they find it as a perfect solution for buying something that they don't throw away, right? Somebody actually made it to fit their needs. They know how it was manufactured. They pay a bit of a margin. From what I know, it's not that expensive. They wait for 2 weeks, right? Okay, they can wait for 2 weeks, but they get something that is so long lasting that they have, a denim that can use for years and years that fitted to them accurately. So this is a combination, using AI, using 3D, specifically here with Browswear, and customizing it to the user. And it's actually, it's very sustainable on that sense because they know how it was produced. You produce one sample to one person. You don't waste so much on samples back and forth on general audience. And it's customized. I think this is the future. What Unspun is doing is so innovative, and this is the future of fashion, of really, really, producing to what the customer needs. So this is an example of that.
I love the Unspun example. And I imagine in future, to Avi's point, like it's not necessarily that everyone wants to necessarily design their own clothes, but I can imagine a future where, for example, my favorite brand puts out their spring collection in 3D on their website. And in February, I have the chance to see what's coming up and shop in 3D and even commit to purchase. And then perhaps it's delivered in the actual spring, right? So we're really seeing 3D transform the fashion seasons, the shopping experience, speed to market, as well as the sustainable opportunities here. So I really think that it can't be underestimated how much of a transformation this is. Now, if you're a brand and you want to incorporate 3D, how quickly can you install Browswear and get up and running with it? What is the transformation like for your clients?
It's a very good question. It's really depending on which client you are. What are your workflows? Today, we have a very quick way to set up the skilling up of the team. And that obviously is the first and foremost challenging element, is how to skill up the team so they can run and go and get the targets which are already kind of known. That's in general. Of course, then, each enterprise, each brand, each retailer has their own special needs, their own challenges as of today, and their own future roadmap that they want to achieve while entering the digital workflow. Really what it is today, it could be anywhere between a month and you're already seeing results in a category or multiple categories to a longer time where you see more people, more categories, more value being added to the process. When I say more value, it's really depending on the personas that are implementing the 3D. It can begin with the engineers of the garment, or with the designers of the garments. It goes from designers and pattern makers to all the other people that are stakeholders within the decision making of the production of the garments. The more people like that will go into the process, the bigger the value will be for the organizations. And this is what we are going through these days, adding value from the solution perspective, but also educating clients to go further and deep to places they might not even think that they can, using the 3D for. There is a big audience out there which are small businesses and independents. For these, the change or the transition can happen much faster. They are dependent only on themselves, and therefore they can do the transition much faster than the bigger organizations.
So I have to add on that. It's kind of what we're saying is, when a company comes and they say they know what their pain is, like they know what their pain in the supply chain. They say we need to solve this, or their pain is very recognizable. You analyze it and you realize this is something that they really need to solve and can be solved with digitalization. It's really, it's something that is the quickest when there's motivation by the organization, when you understand the pain that they going through in that specific area, and then you solve that, then the goal is really focus. It's easier to go through this transformation and at least start it and get this, beginning phase faster. And when you talk to, companies that it's very general, we want to do digitalization, let's start a process. It's more difficult, right? So how do you start? Where are people experiencing pain in their process? Because to get from traditional to digital, it's something that you need to get people out of the comfort zone. You need to get people to go, okay, now you're going to start designing in 3D, and like, why are we doing this? So when you don't know the why, when you don't know the pain, it's much harder to go through the process, and it may take a longer period of time. One of the things that our teams are doing when they start, onboarding customers is really trying to recognize where should we solve the first issues that will make people really motivated to onboard, and the organization to go to digital, the quickest, and then it's just the flow to the rest of the organization could be much faster.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of a trick question because it's sort of like, how fast does digital transformation happen? Well, the answer is it's dependent on the organization, but it's definitely clear from our conversation that it's inevitable in the apparel industry. And it's just a matter of where they're implementing first and at what scale. Now, we've been hearing a lot about digital twins lately. You mentioned avatars as well. How does Browseware see digital twins playing a role in our future?
First of all, when you're saying digital twin, for us, we've been using digital twin term for quite a long time. So what exactly do you mean? Is it the garment? Is it the avatar? What are you talking about?
Well, I think that's an important part of the conversation, is unpacking the differences. So we've seen lots of avatars on social media and on the internet, but when I say digital twin, I mean a replica of something that is real life. So I have this mug here, and then if we were to make a digital twin, we would scan it and make a 3D copy of it. So I understand that that's essentially what Browseware does, but kind of in reverse. And the avatars, I think, in the garment industry are important for visualization, but I'm interested in how even the avatars are coming to the forefront as a part of the sales process. So, I mean, you can answer the question however you like.
First of all, that's an awesome question, because it makes me need to imagine the future and looking at what we already have. So I'll divide it into two. Number one, you're right to say the digital twin, as we look at it for many years already, is the garment itself, but also there's the digital twin that is now rising from the avatar perspective. And I think that the digital twin of the garment is something that we were able to already achieve for quite a long time. There's a way to go into improving and doing that further and further, better and closer to reality. But we are already there in a situation when it ends up in a photography of the garment, of the 3D garment. There is a place where it's unrecognizable to be completely digital. And in that sense, it's a good looking digital visualization of the garment. And then comes the other element of Browser that not only looks good, it also a real digital twin. In other words, when the physical garment is going to be manufactured based on the digital 3D garment, the digital twin, it will behave and be exactly the physical one, like the digital looks and behaving, as long as it's being put on the same person or on the same mannequin in the physical world. Now, this leads into so that's already achieved by Browser. The element which is missing here in the story is the avatars themselves. Avatars is a tricky subject, because avatars until today is more like being able to reach a good representation of a human being. Apparently, it's a tough thing to achieve. And we knew from the beginning that we will be able to achieve a good avatar that represents the bodies of human being, but all the way to the end of it looking and behaving like a real human being, it's not something that we set ourselves to achieve. We were expecting others to do so. And once they do, we will be able to incorporate them into the workflow of dressing those avatars, which are supposed to be digital twins, with the garment, which is already a digital twin. The good news is that lately we are seeing, the new, I think, the new comings from Unreal, from Epic Games, and we are seeing a lot of trials of coming up with new types of avatars which are really true to life or digital twins. And it's becoming harder and harder to really differentiate between them to a real person photography or video, which is awesome. At the same time that it becomes harder to differentiate between them, it also becomes much faster to create them. Okay, so let's make something straight. It wasn't impossible to create a digital twin in the past. And I think this is something that already exists for the last 20 years, that digital twin can be made with 3D softwares. But it was always a matter of how much does it take to create one, in what tools, in what type of skill set are required in order to create a digital twin. Today, what we're seeing coming from several developers out there, including the latest one from Unreal, is extraordinary quality with really simple way of creation and with almost zero skills required in order to achieve a good looking human-like avatar. Now, how does it help? I mean, that's first and foremost, I think the element that we should consider, the fact that it's not any longer a very costly process to create one. And now that this will become more and more a commodity, now you can start thinking of how this is going to be incorporated in to the digital workflow. So naturally, being able to see the garments, the digital twin garments, over a human-like avatar that can move, that can behave, that can be a soft body, this already will make digital workflow even further more true to life, more tangible. Feedback will be much better for anyone who needs to make decision based on the digital outcome. That's number one. And then when you come down to when you reach the consumers, being able to then do the actual showcasing, the sales, the marketing, the advertisement of the collections of the garments using digital avatars that looks like human is opening a door to a world that you can only imagine what can happen in it. First and foremost, you can have models that are not, they don't need to go to sleep and they don't need to eat. They're just models, they're digital models, and you can have as many as you want, and you can generate as many as you want, and you can have them playing as their own profiles in all the social networks, as you can already see few of them today, and they can be everything you want them to be, and that will be within the hands of the creators. And being out there, putting them in the social networks and understanding what the audience likes and which one of them is getting more views, more interest, will help a lot the creators to build the right garments and to build the right avatars to advertise their goods. It's as simple as that. It's a whole new world for approaching consumers through virtual avatars, something that today it's really, it's impossible. I'm not against humans, don't get me wrong, but this is a whole new set of tools that allows us to reach that emotions in human beings through avatars that you can actually design and change and modify.
I was amazed when the MetaHuman by Epic launched, and it's so human-like. It shows all the characteristics of the face and the movement. And once they go also to measurements, body measurements, which is they don't have right now, but just maybe one step away, it will be such a game changer that people can edit so simply. The threshold is going to be so low now that people can create their own avatars. And I'm thinking, and Avichai and I talked about that in the past. Once a person can create their avatar, right? I can create a person that looks exactly like me, that has my measurement that I scanned. And now I can go to any digital store, right? I can go to any store online and show the garment on me in exactly my measurement, my face, the way that I am, to create such a seamless experience. And looking at how the technology is evolving, it's not a while, but I'm looking at like 5 years ago, it seemed unreachable, it seemed like so far away, but now it's almost here. It's something that you can already imagine how it's going to happen. Scanning with the face, with the measurements, with the digital garment. So it's something, and then the important thing would be the accuracy of the garment, something that it will be exactly and accurate to what is going to be produced. Because if you go online and you try the shirt and then you buy it and then it comes, off to what you tried online, that's going to break the trust, right? So it needs to all come together and be a really trustworthy sample.
Absolutely. I'm really looking forward to that sort of digital paper doll experience where my online shopping experience has an avatar that looks like me and I can try on different garments and visualize what they're going to look like on me before purchasing. And it's so important in the age of contactless e-commerce. Just a few more questions for you before I let you go. You mentioned Unreal and Epic Games. We know that a lot of people are expressing themselves through the skins that they're wearing in games like Fortnite. And I'm just wondering, is anybody using browseware in an untraditional way to design clothing for games?
Not that we know, but we know that users are using it for showcasing. We've been recently worked with the Digitales for showcasing garments for catwalks and etc. But the fact that it's so accurate, then you have to actually work on how you build the garment this is something that, sometimes when you work on games, it's the avatars in games are not human-like, right? Their measurements are off. I look at Fortnite, the proportions of the bodies are so off, right? So It's kind of, it's something that you need maybe some software that is more compromising and more flexible, and kind of, you don't need accurate fabrics and things like that.
It's an interesting question. First of all, we've always been oriented towards manufacturing of the real physical garment. And therefore, we always appealed more to the people who are coming from the industry and less for the people who are more interested in a digital outcome only, whether it's video game or whether it's a video film. We never were strong in that perspective. It was more about the manufacturing. But there is, years back, when, I'm talking about 2005, we actually created, before Facebook was out, okay? I'm that old, okay? We came up with an idea to have a social network of designers. And we actually came up with a game, not a game, it was anywhere between an online game to a social network at the time, although social network was not really existing at the time. And then we called it Style Zone. We still own the domain, stylezone.com. And Style Zone was an experience, put it this way, which ended up being used by thousands of teen and tweens. And the idea was to allow them to design garments that looked, again, quite real at the time. I'm talking about 2005, on avatars. And it was kind of a social game because you could design your own, but then you can look at your fellow players. And if you liked something they did, you could have taken that from them, redesign it, and it will always show the history of where did it start and where is it going to. And very soon, people were playing with that as if it was a madhouse. Every day I would wake up and I would see hundreds and sometimes thousands of new styles coming into the website. And that thing was temporary success at the time. We closed it in 2006, but it goes to show that I think that with the right experience, there's so many people out there that like to create, that wants to create. They're not necessarily coming from designer school. Sometimes they're young, but they have that passion, and with the right gaming, with the right tools, it might create a lot of interest, such a game today.
It's really interesting to me how a software can be designed for a certain purpose, but then it could be repurposed by other people to do whatever they like. So that's where the question came from. And speaking of young people, Browseware recently did a campaign in collaboration with school children to help bring some of their designs to life. Can you tell us about that quickly?
Yeah, it came from, we all do drawings when we're young. I used to draw so much, dresses and just draw fashion, young children. It's such an amazing way to express themselves. And we see it's kind of a very abstract, we look at the child's picture and we say, oh, that's so abstract. But we said, well, we can connect that to our independent users. And we have the indie program and we have hundreds of people there that are designing amazing garments. And we said, why not connect between children that are expressing their creativity and dreams to designers that have the ability to bring that to life? It's the threshold is so low right now in terms of bringing something into reality. Physically, it's still, challenging, but you can actually create something that you can share, you can show, the details are there. You can see how actually it's going to look like. And we connected between the two. We started reaching out to parents. And by the way, it was in the beginning of COVID. And what came out of it is my own bored children at home when we were on lockdown. And we said many children was probably doing lots of drawing. So let's offer parents from all over the world the ability to send us their children's drawings and let us bring it to reality, bring it to digital reality. And the response was amazing. By many parents sent us drawings, and we reached out to our indie community, and they just jumped on the opportunity and started creating digital garments. And really their creativity also came out. And then we published it and we connected between, we showed the parents the digital creation, and the response for the children was really overwhelming. It's such a feel-good project. It was such an emotional project for us to see that. And the children actually, they realized that, oh, what I drew it's actually something that could be a real outfit. It's a real dress. It's something that can come to life. And several of them applied for the indie program. I don't know how easy it's going to be for them, for a 7-year-old, to scale up this
You'll
project.
be surprised.
Really, yeah, that's true. It really combined between really wholesome creativity and skills and digital and making things possible, and really bringing our indie program, closer to fun stuff, to great stuff, to showcase their capabilities.
Absolutely. I think children's kind of untethered imagination is so amazing to tap into. And it's also great to encourage that next generation of designers, because these are the people who are going to be designing the clothes of tomorrow.
By the way, what's interesting about this, this is a complete project that Osnat was totally, from the beginning, inventing it, implementing it, executing it. It was awesome to see from the outside, but it was really awesome project. But looking at it from the side, I thought to myself, that thing that turned the sketch of a young kid into a 3D for them was a huge outcome out of what they did. And you ask yourself why. And I think that transformation of the sketch, which looks to them like a sketch, even though they're kids, and seeing it in a 3D design, which obviously looks to them like something real, something tangible, something that is looking like, oh, maybe I can buy it. Maybe my mother can buy it for herself. That thing reminds me that even, we kind of made it into a commodity, the workflow from sketching to 3D. It looks to us as if it was always there. It wasn't. And the fact that you can turn a sketch into 3D in a matter of hours and get that thing, the ideation in front of you and make a decision on that, we know it's awesome. And sometimes it takes kids and their naivety to show us, that this is a real amazing thing. So that to me was a beautiful outcome of this project, and a very emotional project, I think, from the outside.
So we have pictures on Electric Runway for anyone who's listening and wants to take a look at some of the designs that the children created and that the Browswear designers brought to life. Those will be available at electricrunway.com. So how can people follow Browswear and stay in touch with different updates?
Yeah, so we have our website, of course, is browser.com, and we have a blog, and you can see the whole gallery, by the way, there, the full gallery of tens of images from the children's project. We are on social media, on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Follow us and reach out.
Well, Osnat, Avi, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. And I'm definitely, go ahead.
And if individuals out there want to apply for the indie program and try for themselves and try the software, please do welcome. We'll give you the link. And if you can post that would be great.
Absolutely. Yeah, all the links will be up on Electric Runway. Avi, Osnat, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
That was my conversation with Ave Feld and Osnot Lidor of Browswear. To learn more about Browswear or to sign up for their indie program, visit electricrunway.com and click on podcasts. That's also where you'll find all past and future episodes of the show. My name is Amanda Costco. I'm a fashion tech journalist and your host. Be sure to subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, and wherever the best podcasts are found. That's it for today's episode. Until next time, here's looking towards the future.